Hello, I hope whoever's watching this today is doing well. Today I'm making this video called The Survival of the Fittest Mentality, Systematic Cultural Indoctrination. This is a topic I talk about in my book in chapter 3, which there's a link in the description if you want to buy it from Amazon, or if you're in the United States, you can buy it directly from me with Cash App or something and send me $20. I'll send it and mail it right to you. There's also a link called Socialism in the 21st Century that has hundreds of sources on the progress socialism has made, and there's also United States Communist Party website. So, this topic is to understand this topic. It is relevant and probably even necessary to understand the psychological concept of collective consciousness, and to be in awareness of this concept while we talk about this thing. So we have our consciousness as an individual, and we have our our conscious state, the things that are active is actively on our mind. We have our subconscious, which that's things that we can pull back at will. Like, oh, if somebody asks me what'd you have for dinner yesterday, it's not on my conscious mind until they ask me. It's in my subconscious. But whenever they ask me what did you have for dinner yesterday, it immediately comes back to my conscious mind from my subconscious, and I can remember it. Then we have the unconscious. The unconscious is things that we actually feel and affect us, our true feelings and sometimes desires, goals, aspirations, and things that we have buried deep within us, things that we don't even think about, biases we have that we don't even consider, deep perceptions in our mind that it's not to the surface. And some people, they have trauma when they're young, and they can lock their mind. Sometimes will lock the memories in their unconscious, and maybe through therapy or meditation, what do they call it, hypnosis, sometimes they can, or when they're in a dream state, those unconscious memories and feelings and sentiments will come forward. Our unconscious is also things that, like factors in our environment that we don't think about, that affect us, as in our culture, our society, our relationship to to this, well, in the socio-economic ladder, and our relationship to material production, where we're at in society, what our function is, what our role is, what our relation to other members of society is. And so, that's a big part of Marxism, is trying to bring class consciousness to the working class, to the common people. So trying to, because whether or not people understand this and educate themselves on this, this exists in our unconscious and affects us unconsciously. So it's either going to affect you unconsciously or it's going to affect you consciously. If you don't take the time to understand and learn about some of these things, or at least do some deep inner work on yourself, then these things are going to remain unconscious. And even in psychotherapy and psychology, psychiatry, a big part of helping someone is to be more fulfilled and have a better life, no matter what position they're in, is to bring their unconscious conscious, to face the stuff that's deep and dark and buried down. So we want to do this on a collective level. Our socio-economic superstructure, the system in place, the hierarchical system that is the government and economy and trade and all of that put together, all of our economics, all of our government, and even our culture, because our culture and our society and our relationship to the members of society and this whole culture we have is directly related and affected by our economic system. Society runs off of economics because economics, to understand economics fully, which was what Marx really delved into, is to understand that economics is tied to everything else in your life. When you go to work, a lot of people go to work to make money. Even no matter what economic system we have in place, we have to at least a certain percentage of us have to work to make this, to let this in, for this system to function. So I'm trying to explain everything I feel is necessary. Forgive me if anyone's watching this and they already are very well aware of these topics, but I'm trying to explain this in a way that anybody could watch this video and understand the whole point I'm trying to explain. And to explain that, I do feel it's necessary to explain these fundamental things in psychology. So, as I was saying before, we have our consciousness as an individual. Then, whenever humans or any organism or any animal groups together, they have a conscious character, a collective mindset. This exists within households. Each family has their own vibe, they call it these days, or they have their own collective mindset because they all work together. They all think about the same things because they all have to think about the house they live in and their environment and their roles in it and their respective roles to each other in order for that household to function. So then we go to a bigger level, to a town, a city, a country, and the whole earth. So, in awareness of this collective mindset, and in awareness that our socioeconomic superstructure affects us and our place, our role in material production. Give me a minute, let me break that down. I've broke it down many times in other videos, but just in case, our role in material production in simple society. There's this theory as where it's primitive communism. Think about the old days in the hunter-gathering societies, right? Certain people could still survive, and they just had a certain group of people. Everybody had their own respective jobs in the community. Some people, they would go out and hunt, go with the hunting party. Some people, they would go gather. But at the end of the day, everybody shared what they had because it was very primitive and very simple, and everybody's needs were met. Everybody worked together, everybody did what they could. That's what we want to create, but we want to create that in a way that's in collaboration with industry. When we created factories and industrialization, and we were able to, as humans, realize that with the collective labor power put together and production lines and stuff like that, working like ants, each have our own little role in this. When we realized that, we realized there was power in that and we could achieve much more. Certain people, they use their power and position in society, when this was beginning to happen a couple hundred years ago, to lay claim to the what they call the means of production. When you hear Marxists talking about, oh, we have to seize the means of production, that means like the factories, the industry, because certain people in the last couple hundred years, and if you really look back, a lot of these people are from the same families and the same ties. They've laid claim to these collective things. And this ties into a quote that I make in a lot of my videos. When the education is not liberating, the dream of the oppressor is to be I'm sorry, I confused it last time too. The dream of the oppressed is to become the oppressor. And we see that in our culture today. Instead of trying to make solutions, We are fed this ideal that in our society that there's winners or there's losers. There's either those who rise to the top of the socioeconomic ladder and are able to have a great life, and then there's just what they call scrubs, losers. You know, people who aren't worth nothing in those people's eyes. And in a lot of in a cultural sense, this creates a self-defeating thing, and it gets worse and worse to the point in our society we have so much focus on mental health here in the United States because it's literally fucking depressing. You know, it's depressing. It is really depressing. We see it in our communities. We see our friends grow up, graduate high school, and they're just working at a fast food place for 10, 20 years, whenever. They're just doing what they can. They might work construction. Some of us go off to college, and most of them, guess what? They had rich parents. I'm not trying to be cynical, I'm describing the real reality. Some people can make it more higher up in this ladder by doing illegal activity. And the government knows this and it allows it to happen to a certain extent. And it uses that to, it has control over that. So they control it and they allow it to happen. So as I've mentioned in so many of my videos before, I hope if this is the first video someone's watching, they haven't seen it. I've talked a lot about different aspects of this topic, how our socioeconomic superstructure, the socioeconomic system that keeps us all in place, all in the structure, which in the United States is capitalism, and in most of the world it is capitalism currently. In the old days it was feudalism, there was lords and kings, and they ruled by their divine right. Now we have capitalists, the ruling class. So this affects our mindset. We have civil liberty. They say you can be anything you want to be, do anything you want to do. Uh, you just you gotta make it happen. And so many people chase this American dream that's presented to them, and it's really a cultural thing. And the main part about this that I think is really important to recognize is we all feel this deep on an unconscious level. So in our mind, when we try to interpret this thing, this feeling we know is there, this feeling the socioeconomic system gives us, and our relationship to it, it's deep in our heart and our in the backs of our minds, and it's an unconscious feeling you get living in this system. And we all interpret it in different ways and express it in different ways in our own unique ways, with our own unique life in this system, in this life, you know. So, and of course we all have our unique experiences, but on a higher sense we have collective experiences where, you know, we can share memes on Facebook talking about the struggle, and so many people can relate to that and share that, you know. And the working class people go through a lot of struggle here and all across the world. When the people in the ruling classes, the rich kids like Donald Trump, he was given everything his whole life. He always had his privilege. He never had to experience being broke. He never struggled in his life. And so that's what made him the whiny brat rich kid he was. And it makes him think that he can have whatever he wants. Because this affects the different members of society in different ways. If you're one of the common people, the majority of people in the working class, it affects you in the sense that because they say, oh, you can be anything you want to be, you can be so great if you just become like rich or famous. This is the principle, the dream of the oppressed to become the oppressor. And we want to change this with Marxism. We want to change it by getting people to think more on a collective level and take power for the working class. with real social science. Of course, to do that, we have to analyze the situation currently. And when we analyze correctly the situation currently, we can see with simple psychology and sociology, which they don't want to point out and they don't want to recognize, that the ruling class people, the capitalists, the rich kids, the privileged, they have this sense of superiority deep in their unconscious understanding and perception of the world. They think they deserve to rule over us. They think they deserve to live in so much wealth while people are starving and dying. They think that's just the way things are with this dogmatic outlook because that serves them. Because if they believe that that's just the way things are and that's just, it's called dogmaticism, believing that the world is what it is and that's just the way things naturally are. Marxism is striving to change that. So the ruling classes, while they have all they need to survive, they don't have to work for a living to survive. The working class, literally, like myself, has to work for a living to survive. They don't have the luxury of just not working and sitting there all day enjoying themselves, thinking about the deep questions of the universe. For all the recorded history we know of, these ruling class people, these people who rule over us, have. And because they have had this is a bias that was created within them and their perception of the world. Of course, they want to keep things like they are. They're satisfied, they're happy, they're at the top. So the way they see it, this is how the way things should be. It's very easy to understand. Of course, if you're born rich, you have everything you want, and society has to work, but you don't because you were born that way. Of course, you want to think that's the way things are, and you want that to continue. If I was born that way, I would probably think the same way, unless my heart had some compassion. So, when we look at the movie writers, the directors, Hollywood, these rich people, our government officials, so many people are born into that. People don't understand. Most of these rich actors and celebrities and all these people, they were born privileged. Some of them were born in the struggle, but the majority of them weren't. And even the ones that were born from the struggle, they now that they're rich, they've become the oppressor, and they're happy with that. So, when we look at the movies, the culture, the music, what these industries push out and what they approve, we see this survival of the fittest mindset projected through them. Like the movie 2012. What happened, right? If you're not aware of it, it's a really popular movie that came out in 2012 in the United States, where basically all the rich people, they knew this whole big flood was coming and it was going to wipe out much of the earth. So all the rich people just decided to go in these giant ships and just survive on their own and say, forget about the poor people, and they sold the tickets off at the highest price. Today we see them trying to go to Mars. I was actually gonna make this video. The rich people are trying to abandon us and go to Mars, and abandon us. But my friend told me, don't put that energy out there, because she's like, a hippie or whatever. And I'm like, all right, I won't make the video that title. But think about it. Instead of trying to pass the Green New Deal or any legislation that actually helps the environment and fix the earth, and the climate change problems we're having, they're literally proposing ideas saying, let's go to Mars, let's train people and create a society on Mars. Who's gonna go to Mars? Think about it. Not the poor people. It's gonna be the rich people, the privileged. We want to take away power from these capitalist political power before they can do this. You see it in our culture in the rap music and my phone just ran out of storage. The video was too long. I had to delete some things, and so this is part 2. I'm just gonna try to wrap this up as quick as possible. We see these industry people, and we see the people who are established in these media industries. They promote and try to push the mindset that naturally comes out in people of the survival of the fittest. In this planet, we actually do have enough for everybody to survive. And we actually can make real solutions to the climate crisis problems we are facing. And there is actually enough for everyone to survive, even if they're not able to work. There's enough for everybody to have food, shelter, and medical care, regardless if they have a job or not. And there is enough jobs for everyone. That's a capitalist lie. Unemployment is a thing that is needed in capitalism, because unemployment creates a reserve group of people who are competing in the job market, and they want to keep that job market competitive and always have a stock of people who are looking for work and do not have jobs, so that they can undercut the wages and give the lowest wages possible and always have somebody, because somebody among that unemployed group is going to say, I don't care, I just want to work, I just want to make some money. And so they purposely keep us in this mindset. The goal of a socialist state, a socialist society, and a communist society is to eliminate unemployment. In capitalism, they don't tell you this, but they need unemployment. Unemployment, having a reserve group of people who are unemployed, they want to reduce it to a certain number, but they don't want to eliminate it. Because think about it, there's so much work to be done on this planet. There is so much organization that we could do, and so much planning we could do. There's so much work to do to save our planet, to provide for everyone, to have a better life, to help everybody on this planet. You know, there's so much we can do, even just to help ourselves and our own situations. And we want to have capable organizers, able to and people who are capable of making real solutions and plans, good scientists, and engineers, and intelligent people. But we want to have them working for socialism, working to have solutions, and to utilize people who in a capitalist system are unemployed, because there's no profit. There's not enough capitalist profit being made. Because we want to switch this mentality to profit, to having effective results, and then producing things that the people on Earth need and that our planet needs to survive. So the main thing that I wanted to express here, which isn't the easiest to articulate into words, is that there's a psychological process that is in your unconscious that projects certain images, and this is where conspiracies come from, like the Illuminati, because there actually is a group of capitalists, you know, like they're not even an official group, there's just capitalists, elite capitalists who actually do try to rule the world and oppress the masses. That actually does exist, but there's no group called the Illuminati. But because we come to these inner truths, because we see the wrongs of society and we see the problem, but we aren't able to fully articulate it scientifically from a true sociological perspective and understanding with a foundational understanding in psychology and socioeconomic history, historical, dialectical, and historical materialism, when we don't have this fundamental understanding of psychology and materialist history, then it's hard for us to interpret and articulate correctly these things that we all do see. We all see the corruption in society, but that is what the Communist Party is for. The Communist Party is for real social scientists, real Marxists, to study and understand the material conditions within the current country, within history, in relationship to other countries, and our socioeconomic conditions as a whole, and come up with real solutions, scientific solutions to solve these problems, and educate the masses and get them on board with this, organize them together, and agitate, tell them we have the power. The people have the power, and they can create real change if they are educated. They come to a class conscious understanding that they have more power, always have more power than a small group of people. The masses, the common people, always have the most power. So basically, what I'm trying to say, these understandings come to us regardless of our position in society. These rich capitalists, they see things in their own way, but they're only able to see from what they from their position, from their bias. And so they want to project the survival of the fittest mindset, even if they're not consciously evil, even if they're not sitting there in some dark room like, yeah, I'm gonna, I'm doing this plan to suppress the masses, and I'm going to make sure that they are not conscious by putting these messages and this symbolism and this story out to them, this propaganda. And there are people that do that in the government. Actually, there really are government organizations that do that. But even people who do not do that, unconsciously, their position and culture manifests that, and makes them express themselves that way and project that message, because it's an unconscious thing. So there are smart people even in the government who have consciously come to this understanding and consciously better their struggle and their ability to oppress the masses through their propaganda. But then there's also people that are helping them unconsciously. So the point is, we want to bring everyone to a more conscious understanding of the real scientific conditions of our society and our culture and our environment and our relationship to society and environment. We want to bring people class consciousness, and we want them to be able to actualize, a better future through productive action consciously. So thank you all for watching. As I said in part one, the links are also going to be below for my book. If you want to buy it on Amazon, if you're in the United States, and you want to send me Cash App or something, I can mail it to you personally. Socialism in the 21st Century has a link that has hundreds of sources on the progress socialists have made. And third is the United States Communist Party website. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night.